What's up, guys? The UFC 316 just wrapped up and the card went as most of us expected. Merab absolutely mauled Sean O'Malley. That fight should not have happened. Not only did Sean O'Malley not deserve the rematch, and the fight was way more one-sided this time. The co-main event was a one-sided slaughter. I would say it performed decently well, maybe like a 6 out of 10. Oh, and as for my picks on the card, I had 11 correct and 2 incorrect. And we'll start with the main event. Merab Dvalishvili defeated Sean O'Malley by a third-round submission. North-South choke. When's the last time a championship fight ended with a north-south choke? Crazy. And it's Merab's first submission win in his entire UFC career. His second finish overall too. The only other finish in the UFC was against Marlon Moraes by TKO though. They gave Sean O'Malley an immediate rematch just to get choked out for Merab's first submission win. That's so crazy. And O'Malley's star power is essentially gone now. People still like him, he still has an exciting fighting style, but he's not going to be that superstar now. They have exhausted his title shots. He's never fighting for the title again, unless the champion is somebody he already beat. And by not fighting before getting the rematch, right, without fighting the other contenders, he's not going to improve as much as Merab did. Merab had a fight after beating O'Malley. He fought Umar, who is stylistically, on paper, his hardest fight in the division, and he beat him. He's only going to get better after that. O'Malley did not have the opportunity. Well, he did have the opportunity, but he took the Merab fight instead. He could have fought someone else and tried to get better. But now that he lost Merab for the second time in a row, and he's never been a dominant champion, he only had one title defense, O'Malley might never fight for the title again. And Merab Dvalishvili is the greatest bantamweight of all time. I have him above Dominic Cruz. His level of competition just exceeds Cruz. Even though he doesn't have as many title defenses, I think Cruz had 5 title defenses with WEC and the UFC. Merab has 2, but he beat better fighters overall. Even though Dominic Cruz beat Demetrius Johnson, that was DJ before his prime, and at bantamweight too, where DJ always had a hard time against bigger opponents. So I think Merab is the greatest bantamweight. I put Cruz at number 2, and not only that, Merab might be the best bantamweight ever in terms of just overall skill. If you count his cardio as a skill, because he uses cardio very well in fights, he's the best. The only other fighter I think has a realistic chance of beating him is an improved Umar Nurmagomedov. That's the only guy. He won the first 2 rounds against Merab. He was more skilled than Merab. He was able to wrestle very well and strike very well with him until he started gassing out. And there was the whole hand injury thing. We'll see how much that makes a difference because O'Malley also said he was injured for the first Merab fight. And look, he got beat even worse in the rematch. If Umar's cardio can last 3 rounds against Merab without gassing out, that's the fighter I can see beating Merab and nobody else. I don't think Jan beats him. Corey, Song, O'Malley in a third fight, Mario Bautista, like who knows? Like that guy might be a top-ranked bantamweight in the future. None of those guys beat Merab, but just an amazing performance from Merab Dvalishvili. Destroy Sean O'Malley. In the first round, I knew this fight was pretty much over. The takedown was way too easy. He took him down in the first round, but I did not think he would finish him in the third round like that. I thought he was going to win by a decision, but I think for his next fight, Merab should fight Corey Sandhagen. And as for Sean O'Malley, maybe against Song Yadong or against Umar, one of those two. And Kayla Harrison absolutely destroys Julianna Pena. The fight went exactly as everyone thought it was going to go. Kayla Harrison submitted her with a Kimura in the second round, and the submission was only in for like half a second, and Kayla nearly tore Julianna's arm off. She landed some trips in the clinch, threw a few left kicks out there, and Julianna really didn't have much success other than some up kicks that were deducted points for, but the referee stood them up after. I think Kayla should still get her position. She got up kicked twice, right? But it didn't matter. The fight was one-sided. The submission was so easy. Kayla Harrison was eventually going to get that. If the submission was that easy for her, she was going to get that submission regardless at some point in the fight. And she went to the Kimura from the shoulder pressure in the half guard position. And yeah, just a very good win for Kayla Harrison. And Amanda Nunes is back. She's going to be fighting Harrison now. And it's the only fight that's honestly exciting for bantamweight. Amanda Nunes saving the bantamweight division for one fight. I doubt she'll fight after that. And if she is still good, I think she beats Kayla Harrison. But there is a size advantage that Kayla Harrison has. And of course, she's better on the ground. I think Nunes will make it difficult for her to get her to the ground, though, and she'll absolutely destroy Kayla Harrison in the stand-up. Like, the striking's not even close. So that's going to be an exciting fight. And if Amanda Nunes wins, she will have beaten every bantamweight champion in history. Again, she did it before. Kayla Harrison's the only bantamweight champion now that she has not beaten. And Amanda Nunes is trying to make sure that there is no champion that hasn't lost to her. Did you guys see the referee? I swear he looked like a fusion of Patchy Mix and Mario Bautista. Literally Patchy Bautista refereeing the women's bantamweight title fight. The ultimate fighter. And as for Julianna Pena, I think she should fight Norma Dumont. And if Norma Dumont beats her, then Dumont should get a title shot. And I do think she beats Julianna Pena. And Joe Pyfer defeats Kelvin Gastelum by unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-27, and 30-27. It was a close fight. I thought it probably was 29-27 or 29-28. I didn't think Pyfer won the third round. I gave that one to Kelvin, and the first 2 rounds to Joe Pyfer. Even though the commentators were saying that Kelvin could have won the second round, which I don't agree. He didn't have like big moments in that round. Even though he landed, 4 more strikes, he never hurt Pyfer in that round. Pyfer stunned him with a right hand that slightly stumbled him. That moment alone was the biggest of the entire second round, with only like a 4 significant strike difference. I think it's because Joe Pyfer was such a big favorite, and a lot of people expected him to just dominate the fight or something, that if Kelvin had any good moments, it would be more emphasized, because Kelvin should not be doing that well against Joe Pyfer on paper, so I think that's what it was. It's the underdog bias, essentially. And especially after the first round, Joe Pyfer nearly knocked him out twice. We don't see Kelvin Gastelum get dropped like that early in fights. Like, usually it takes a beating, or it takes like a lot of cumulative damage, and then the opponent's able to drop him, like Israel Adesanya. Who else dropped Kelvin? Jared Cannonier. Joe Pyfer dropped him twice in the first round. The first one, it looked like he was nearly knocked out. Pyfer hits incredibly hard, man. And he said he felt rusty out there. Bro, if that is Joe Pyfer with ring rust, like, this guy's gonna be a problem for these middleweights in the future. You see the potential in his skill set. He might be the biggest puncher. He's very fast. He has good footwork. He's well-rounded. He can wrestle, he can strike. He's just so much of a sniper more than a guy who throws combinations, and the commentators were right. He does very well when he's throwing combinations, and it's mostly the setup for the big shot. If he worked off the jab and feints, like, he will do exponentially better than he already is, because he has the punching power, precision, footwork, and speed. The main thing that was lacking, especially in the Jack Hermansson fight, were the setup for the power punches. Like, where were the jabs? Where were the feints? These are more important than just punching hard, right? Because those techniques allow the fighter to land those kind of punches. Without the jabs, without the feints, it becomes a lot more difficult to land those. I mean, look at even Ju Sang-yu in the early prelims. How did he land the knockout shot with that left hook? It was off of the feint. He feinted forward, baited the opponent to move forward, and then he countered him and knocked him out. For a lot of Joe Pyfer's striking, he is missing the very critical step in making him a better striker. If he adds a lot more of that, this guy can actually be very good. And how tough is Kelvin Gastelum? With how many fights he has in the UFC, with all the wars, you would think at this point he would get knocked out by punches like that, but it's crazy. The guy still has a granite chin, because usually when Joe Pyfer lands a punch like that, it knocks his opponent out cold. Like, they don't get up. He did that multiple times throughout the fight, and Kelvin still fought his way to a decision. In my opinion, as that big of an underdog, winning a round and not getting knocked out by taking the biggest shots from Joe Pyfer, even a head kick too. Joe Pyfer landed a head kick and Kelvin still fought his way all the way to a decision. I guess it's like a moral victory for him. Like, that's impressive. So I thought it was a pretty good fight, even though there wasn't a lot of volume striking, but there were a ton of power punches getting thrown from both fighters. 2 knockdowns. Kelvin landed a few big shots in the third round, and maybe they give Joe Pyfer someone ranked. So Paulo Costa's fighting Roman Kopylov. I think Joe Pyfer should fight the loser of that fight. Can you imagine Paulo Costa versus Joe Pyfer? Paulo Costa versus Joe Pyfer would be an insane war. I think Pyfer beats him, but that would be a great fight. And Mario Bautista defeated Patchy Mix by decision, 29-28. Bautista fought very well. He actually made the fight exciting. The audience was booing it, but I thought it was a good fight. Better than some of the other fights on this card that didn't get booed. But, Mario Bautista is very well not liked. And I don't know what Patchy Mix was doing. Where were the takedowns? I was saying the entire fight. Is he gonna shoot now? Is he gonna shoot a single leg, double leg? When are the takedowns gonna be a part of his approach here? This guy was kickboxing with Mario Bautista for like 90% of that fight. That's his style. He's not a striker in that sense. Like, he's not beating Mario Bautista in the striking. He needs to take him to the ground, and Bautista doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, but it seemed like he had octagon jitters. He had cold feet out there. This guy was plotting like crazy. He does have that kind of footwork style, but he used to move a lot more when he was in Bellator and against much faster fighters than Bautista. Like, he fought Kyoji Horiguchi and Sergio Pettis. These guys are both faster than Bautista, and Bautista was landing right hands. He was doing very good from orthodox. Not as well in southpaw. Him switching stances in the second round allowed Mix to land some good shots after taking all of that damage, and he has a very good chin. Bautista doesn't hit the hardest, but he was landing some big shots on Patchy Mix, and Mix was just taking them, eating them like they were nothing, constantly walking forward. And you can see he was trying to land the knee, but Bautista's not going to shoot takedowns, and he's not short either. So that was a very underwhelming performance from Patchy Mix, and he's supposed to be one of the best fighters coming from Bellator. He was talking about how he's the best in the world and all that sort of stuff. Well, he certainly didn't fight like he was the best in the world at all. Such a frustrating performance as a Patchy Mix fan to see him not shoot takedowns. He shot, 1 or 2 takedowns in the entire fight? There was that one where it was like half a takedown. He kind of just like bumped into Mario Bautista, but then the second actual takedown, it was way too late. Bautista's already sweaty. I think it was in the third round. He needed to be shooting takedowns in the beginning of the fight. And Dominic Cruz, I think he tweeted that the body shots from Bautista were not allowing Patchy Mix to go for takedowns, was making it hard for Patchy Mix to go for takedowns. But no, dude, there were so many moments. Most of the first round was not body shots. There were so many moments where Mix could have just tried to shoot a takedown, and he didn't even try. He didn't even try to shoot any takedowns in the first round. But that's not to take away the performance from Mario Bautista, because I think his footwork out there would have helped him defend some of those takedowns. And we all knew he was going to be the better striker out there, but if Patchy Mix is going to fight like that, he's never beating any of the best guys there. Could you imagine if he fought Sean O'Malley? O'Malley would have annihilated him, bro. Like if Mario Bautista is moving around and sniping with the right hand like that, imagine him fighting Sean O'Malley. He would have gotten knocked out probably in the first or second rounds. Crazy. And on the betting odds, Patchy Mix was like a 2-1 favorite. And then in the second round, for the live odds, Bautista was like a 4-1 favorite. That's a kind of performance that makes the Bellator fighters look like they're not that good, because this guy was one of their best in his prime too. But after this win, Mario Bautista, I think, should fight Deiveson Figueiredo. He's ranked number 10. He's probably going to be higher. And Deiveson Figueiredo is number 6. That would be a very good fight for Mario Bautista. And as for Patchy Mix, I would still like to see him fight someone ranked. Maybe Eamon Zahabi or Kyler Phillips. Those would be some good fights. Kevin Holland easily defeats Vicente Luque. Darce choked him in the second round, and Vicente Luque looks so slow out there. Kevin Holland was able to angle off on his punches, which is kind of crazy. It would not have been that easy if Luque was still in his prime. He grabbed Luque's kick, took him to the ground. Darce choke, got a hold of the leg, and the fight was over. He landed some good punches, but man, that was not a great performance from Luque, but definitely a very good performance from Kevin Holland. It's great to hear that he wants to stay at welterweight. Kevin Holland is not going to middleweight anymore, which is so much better for his career, because the middleweights just overpower him. They're too big. He's too light for those guys. They wrestle him to the ground very easily. But at welterweight, this guy's actually getting submission wins against Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. But Kevin Holland's submissions are actually very technical, and he has the arm length to get those kind of chokes very quickly. It's almost like Tony Ferguson. Like, he can get these Darce chokes the way like Tony Ferguson can, because both their arms are so long. Imagine Kevin Holland actually trained his wrestling. This guy would be submitting some great fighters in this weight class. We'll also have that knockout power and reach advantage in the stand-up, but I just don't think Kevin Holland cares too much about that. I mean, so Kevin Holland is going to be ranked most likely below Michael Page, so they could make the Colby Covington fight that he wants. He called out Colby. I don't know if Colby would care to fight him, but that would be a great fight. What about Joshua Van TKOing Bruno Silva in the third round? He's one of the best strikers in the UFC, 100%. So incredibly technical. His boxing's on point, great combinations, very good footwork, and not super flashy or dynamic with his footwork, but every step he takes is purposeful to counter the opponent, to take angles, to throw combinations, or just evade the opponent's strikes. He was laying those short right hands too, hurt Bruno Silva at one point of the fight, hurt him with a knee in the clinch as well, using the jab so intelligently throughout, and Joshua Van is at least going to be a future contender for that title. And I think he should fight top 10 next. Maybe Asu Amabayev, that'd be a great fight. That's actually the fight to do next. Asu Amabayev versus Joshua Van. And as for Bruno Silva, maybe him versus Ramazan Tamirov, that'd be a good fight too. Azamat Murzakanov just destroyed Brendson Ribeiro. Very easy fight. He just fired the left hand out there, and Brendson Ribeiro actually countered him, intercepted him with a jab, but Azamat didn't care. Ate the punch, walked right through it, landed the left hand at like the corner of the forehead, or it could have been the temple. It looked like it was the forehead though, and that began the finishing sequence. Landed more left hands, rotating on top for good positions to land ground and pound shots and just finish the fight. But shout out to Brendson Ribeiro for stepping up on short notice. Azamat was supposed to fight Johnny Walker. I thought he would have won that fight too, but I don't know if they're going to reschedule the Johnny Walker fight, but I would like to see Azamat fight Alexander Rakic actually, because Rakic is too highly ranked for beating Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos. That's the only reason he's that high in the rankings. He's number 6 in the rankings. Let's see him fight Azamat Murzakanov. If he could beat Azamat, then he can stay at his place. But right now, because he beat 2 guys that are not even in the UFC anymore, his other big win was Jimmy Manuwa. He retired long ago. Like, you can't lose to all the top guys and still be that highly ranked. Like, he has to fight someone like Azamat now. And that would be an excellent stylistic matchup too. So Azamat Murzakanov versus Alexander Rakic, amazing fight. And then Waldo Cortes-Acosta defeated Serghei Spivak by unanimous decision. Very close fight. I thought Waldo won the fight, but Spivak's game plan didn't seem like it was the best. He wasn't throwing leg kicks, and he wasn't shooting as many takedowns as I thought he was going to. Waldo had good takedown defense though. So like, both fighters improved in their weaker areas. Spivak's striking looked a lot better. His defense was there. He had a very good jab, left high kick counters, fought very well behind the high guard. And then Waldo's takedown defense was better than ever. That is the way he lost to Marcos Rogero de Lima. He was getting leg kicked and taken to the ground. His takedown defense is actually very good now, and Spivak didn't throw leg kicks. Waldo was laying leg kicks on Spivak though and inflicted a lot of damage off of those. He had a good jab, landed some good right hands. Both fighters landed good shots on each other, but I thought Waldo landed the bigger shots overall to win the fight. And I think he should get a top 5 fighter next because Spivak is number 8 in the rankings, and everybody else above them is pretty much just a placeholder. Like all those guys are kind of just sitting where they are. They don't move too much throughout the rankings. They don't rise or decline. They're kind of just there. Besides Tom Aspinall, John Jones, and potentially we'll see what happens with Francis Ngannou if he comes to the UFC, because Waldo, Cortes-Acosta, and Taliesin Teixeira are the only guys rising the rankings. Everybody else is kind of just where they're at, and they don't move. He should fight Serghei Pavlovich. I would say Curtis Blades, but they just want Curtis Blades to fight Rizvan Kuniev for some reason. That guy's making his UFC debut against a top 5 heavyweight. That doesn't make any sense. Just like Jan versus McGee, O'Malley fought Merab. There's a lot of fights that don't make any sense. Waldo versus Blades would have been the fight. Like that actually makes sense. So let's have Waldo fight Pavlovich. And also it'll be a great fight. 2 strikers at the top of the heavyweight division, that would be a fun fight. And as for Spivak, a fight against Shamil Gaziev would be fun. They would have Andreas Gustafsson versus Khaos Williams. That was the most surprising fight of the entire card. Gustafsson just walked him down the entire fight, threw some crazy punches out there, and Khaos Williams wasn't able to knock him out with a good counter shot, and then Gustafsson just smothered him against the fence, landed some good shots, cut him open, and Khaos Williams just wasn't able to keep up with that pace. It wasn't the most exciting fight. The audience was booing that fight a lot, but maybe because some of the earlier fights were more exciting. And I'm talking about Ariane Lipski da Silva versus Wang Tong, I guess it is. Well, is her name actually pronounced Wang Tong? So like the C in Mandarin is a T sounding letter or something like that. I don't know how it works, but Wang Tong defeated Ariane Lipski by decision. The fight went pretty much as I thought it was going to go. Tong was just going to be the better striker of the two, and Lipski would fight behind her toughness to a decision, in which she did. Tong just landed devastating leg kicks, even dropped her in the fight with those. Good counter shots, just very good striking throughout. And she's only inching her way closer to a title shot that we want to see. So Valentina Shevchenko is still the champion, and there is this build up for that fight because Wang Tong defeated Shevchenko in kickboxing. Will she defeat her again in MMA? Is this the next Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya moment where they have the winner of the kickboxing fight rising the rankings to fight their rival once again? Now, of course, it's not going to be as big, right? Shevchenko versus Tong is a good fight, but it's not going to be Pereira and Adesanya big, you know? That rivalry is one of the greatest in combat sports history. But this is a flyweight fight I'm very interested in. I think Shevchenko would beat Tong through the grappling, but maybe by the time Tong fights her, her takedown defense is good enough to keep the fight standing and she outstrikes Shevchenko. That would be wild. So good win from Wang Tong. She called out Jessica Andrade. Let's do that fight. Perfect. And as for Lipski, maybe she fights JJ Aldrich. And then what about Ju Sang Yu knocking out Jeka Saragih 28 seconds into the first round? The Korean Conor McGregor. I hope this guy's actually a very good fighter in the future because we've seen these prospects bursting onto the scene with these big finishes, but then they fight someone who's decent and then they lose. He has a very exciting style. If you've seen some of his fights outside the UFC, his fights are always very exciting and he's still undefeated. So I can't wait to see what he does for this featherweight division. That was such an insane left hook knockout. It was like without much leverage, without much of a windup, just placed that left hand on the jaw and KO'd him. Excellent footwork throughout and just annihilated Saragih, who was a big power puncher. Like to knock him out in 28 seconds is a very good UFC debut. Then Quillan Selkild and Yale Ashmos had a very good fight. Selkild won the first 2 rounds, and Ashmos won the 3rd round. But one of the judges scored at 30-27 for Selkild, which is crazy. Ashmos landed the biggest shots in the 3rd round. At one point landed a big left hook. Selkild started taunting him, landed another right hand after that. But throughout the fight, Selkild's landing good body kicks, used the jab very well, multiple takedowns. And I think that's how he got tired in the 3rd. Because of how much he was wrestling and trying to control Ashmos throughout the fight, using his grappling, it seemed to have zapped his energy. Also combined with some of the explosive strikes he was throwing out there. But overall, a very good fight. And then Markel Medeiros defeated Mark Chewinski by unanimous decision. This fight became more of like striker versus grappler. Medeiros was dominating the stand-up, landed big leg kicks, swept him off his feet with a few of those leg kicks, and constantly feinting throughout the entire fight. And it made it hard for Chewinski to know when to throw something forward. Not only that, Medeiros was switching stances. He landed a good knee in the 1st round, but did get his back taken a few times in the fight. But overall, another great fight. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure to give this video a like, make sure to subscribe. Leave in the comments below what you guys think about the card, what would you rate it out of 10, and how would you match make the fighters on this card. And I'll see you guys in the next video.